أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فيسقون فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاء المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم إن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعد من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا سيئة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآيات لهم الأرض الميتات أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كله مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآيات لهم الليل نسلخ من النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري من لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر والليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآيات لهم أنا حملنا ذرية في الفلك المشحون ما خلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا متاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لا يشاء الله أطعاما إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا سيئة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ولنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا زيادة واحدة فإذا هم جميعا لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قول من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين ونبدني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أنزل منكم جبلا كثيرا فلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم تكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على عينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانهم فما استطاعوا مزيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكرا وقرآن مبين لقد كان حق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لا مالكون وذللنا لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب فلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام ويرميه قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم خلق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العظيم الفاتحة
आप लोगों से एक सूरह फातिहा की भी दरख्वास्त है। सैयदा नसीम फ़ातिमा, सैयदा सईदा जाफ़री, सैयदा मसरूर ज़हरा, सैयदा बिनते ज़हरा रिज़वी, सैयद क़ासिम हुसैन, सैयद आफ्ताब रज़ा, सैयद क़ाइम रज़ा, सैयद मज़हर जाफ़री, सैयदा इखलास फ़ातिमा, सैयदा रबाब फ़ातिमा, सैयद शब्बीर हुसैन ज़ैदी।
नारे सलावत अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद वअज्जिल फरजा। अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। अन जाबिर इब्न अब्दुल्लाह अल अंसारी अन फातिमत ज़हरा अलैहिस्सलाम बिनती रसूलिल्लाह फ़क़ाल समअतु फ़ातिमा अन्नहा क़ालत दख़ल अलय्या अबी रसूलिल्लाहि फ़ी बाज़िल अय्याम फ़क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या फ़ातिमा फ़क़ुल्तु व अलैकुस्सलाम क़ाल इन्नी अजिदु फ़ी बदनी ज़ुअफ़न फ़क़ुल्तु लहू औइज़ुका बिल्लाहि या अबताह मिनज़्ज़ुफ़ फ़क़ाल या फ़ातिमतु ईतिनी बिलकिसाइल यमानी फ़ग़त्तैनी बिह फ़अतैतुहु बिलकिसाइल यमानी फ़ग़त्तैतुहु बिहि वसिरतु अंज़ुरु इलैहि व इज़ा वजहुहु यतलअ कअन्नहुल बद्रु फ़ी लैलति तमामिही व कमालिही। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। फमा कानत इल्ला साअतन व इज़ा बिवलदी अल हसन क़द अक़बला व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या उम्मा फ़क़ुल्तु व अलैकुस्सलाम या क़ुर्रता ऐनी व समरता फ़ुआदी फ़क़ाल या उम्माहु इन्नी अशुम्मु इंदकी राइहतन तय्यबा कअन्नहा राइहतु जद्दी रसूलिल्लाह फ़क़ुल्तु नअम इन्ना जद्दका तहतल किसा फ़अक़बल अल हसन नहवल किसा वक़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या जद्दा या रसूल अल्लाह अताज़नु लि अन अदख़ुला मअका तहतल किसा वक़ाल वअलैकुस्सलाम या वलदी व या साहिब हौज़ी क़द अज़िनतु लका फ़दख़ला मअहु तहतल किसा। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। फमा कानत इल्ला सअतन व इज़ा बिवलदी अल हुसैन क़द अक़बला व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैकी या उम्मा फ़क़ुल्तु व अलैकुस्सलाम या वलदी व या क़ुर्रता ऐनी व समरता फ़ुआदी फ़क़ाल ली या उम्माहु इन्नी अशुम्मु इंदकी राइहतन तय्यबा कअन्नहा राइहतु जद्दी रसूलिल्लाह फ़क़ुल्तु नअम इन्ना जद्दका व अख़ाका तहतल किसा फ़दना अल हुसैन नहवल किसा वक़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या जद्दा अस्सलामु अलैका या मन इख्तारहुल्लाह अताज़नु लि अन अदख़ुला मअकुमा तहतल किसा فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك، فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومع بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وقاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن أعداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرض مدهية ولا قمرا منير ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. وقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ وقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. وقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم، قد أذنت لك. فحبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويقصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرض مدهية ولا قمر منير ولا شمس مضية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وهي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. وقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. وقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر قبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيه محموم إلا وفرج الله حما، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا، وفي الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलावत भूल गया था। भूल गया बहुत दिन हो गए। बारह दीगर सलावत। घर को छोड़ा शाह ने जंगल बसाने के लिए, करबला में आए थे जन्नत, करबला में आए थे जन्नत में जाने के लिए। ज़ोहर को ज़ैनब से जब मिलने गए घर में हुसैन, कोई देवड़ी पर न था पर्दा उठा, कोई देवड़ी पर न था पर्दा उठा के लिए। शय बैठे पढ़कर नमाज, सुबह महशर हो गया, हजरत ज़ैनब चले कपड़े, हजरत ज़ैनब चले कपड़े कहती थी माँ खत मेरे अकबर को था पैगाम में मर्ग, ये जवानी आई थी गोया गुलाम, ये जवानी आई थी गोया थी सदा ज़हरा की ज़ैनब, मर गया तेरा हुसैन, घर में जा बेटी सबे मातम, घर में जा बेटी सबे मातम बिचारने के लिए, बढ़ती है मन्नत ग़िज़ा असगर की होती है शुरू, दूध छुटता है चले हैं तीर खा, दूध छुटता है चले तीर खाने के लिए, घर को छोड़ा शाह।
सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्ले अला मोहम्मद। जाए शबीरा कहाँ माँ मिलेगी, कहाँ अमाम अब मिलेगी, कहाँ अमाम रहने देते नहीं मदीने में, मुझ पे होती है सख्तियाँ, मुझ पर होती है सख्तियाँ, जा रहा हूँ मैं अब खुदा हाफिज, अब निकलता है कारवां, अब निकलता है कारवां, आपकी बेटियों के शानों में बांधी जाएगी रेशमा, बांधी जाएगी रेशमा, आपकी गोद में हो सर मेरा, तेरे कातिल हो जब रवा, तेरे कातिल हो जब रवा, तुमको ज़ैनब बताएगी एक दिन, पुश्त पर जख्म के निशान पुश्त पर जख्म के निशामा जाए शबे सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मोहम्मद। घर से जब बहरे सफर सैयदे आलम निकले सर झुकाए हुए बादी दए पुरनम निकले खीशो फरजंद कमर बांध के बाहम निकले रोके फरमाया के शहर से रोके फरमाया के शहर से अब हम निकले राह से गिरिए ज़हरा की सदाती है देख किस्मत हमें किस दश्त में ले देखे किस्मत हमें किस दश्त में ले जा रुख किया शहले सुए कब्रे शहंशाह अनाम बहर तस्लीम झुके मुता सिले बाबे सलाम इज़्न पढ़े कर जो गए कब्र के नजदीक इमाम अर्ज की आया है आज आखिरी रुखसात अर्ज की आया है आज आखिरी रुखसात को बुला ये मकान हमसे अब शाह जमन छुटता है हजरत के नवासे से वतन आज हजरत के नवासे से वतन छुटता है चैन से सब है घरों में मुझे मिलता नहीं चैन सख्त आफत में है अब आपका ये नूरुलैन टुकड़े दिल होता है जब रो के हरम करते हैं बैन नन्हे बच्चों को भला लेके किधर जा नन्हे बच्चों को भला लेके किधर जा शहर में चैना जंगल में अमा मिलती है देखिए कब्र मुसाफिर को देखिए कब्र मुसाफिर को कहाँ मिलती है ये वो दिन है कि परिंदे भी नहीं छोड़ते घर मुझको दरपेश है इन रोजों में आफत का सफर है कहीं कत्ल का सामा कहीं लुट जाने का डर साथ है बच्चों का बादशाह साथ है बच्चों का बादशाह तंग जीने से हो पास अपने बुला लो नाना तुरबत में नवासे को छुपा लो, अपनी तुरबत में नवासे को छुपा लो। ये बयां करके जो तावी से लिपटे सरवर, यूं हिली कब्र के थर्राए, जरी है अनवर आई तुरबत से ये आवाज़े, हबीबे दावर तेरी गुर्बत के मैं सदके मेरे मजलूम, तेरी गुर्बत के मैं सदके मेरे मजलूम। कोई समझाना मेरी गोद का पाला तुझको, आदान मदीने से निकाला, हाँ आदान मदीने से निकाला तुझको। कई दिन से तेरी मादर को नहीं कब्र में चैन, आई थी शब को मेरे पास ये करती हुई बहन, घर मेरा लुटता है फरियाद। रसूल सकलैन सुबह को अपना वतन छोड़ के जाता, सुबह को अपना वतन छोड़ के जाता है हुसैन। कहने आई हूँ के मुँह कब्र से मोड़ूंगी मैं अपने बच्चे को अकेला तो न छोड़ूं, अपने बच्चे को अकेला तो न छोड़ूंगे मैं। सुन के ये शहर ने किया आखिरी रुखसत का सलाम, निकले रोते हुए जब रोज़े अनवर से इमाम शह से उस दम ये किया रो रो के ज़ैनब ने कलाम, कब्र पर माँ की मुझे ले चलो या कब्र पर माँ की मुझे ले चलो या शाह। लोग हमरा है महमिल में मैं क्यों करो माँ की तुरबत से फिर कर बाल पट, माँ की तुरबत से फिर कर बाल पटकर माँ की तुरबत पा गए शाह, बचश में खुबार उतरी महमिल से बसदा हो, ज़ैनब-ए-ज़ार दौड़कर कब्र से लिपटे जो इमाम अबरार, हाथ जरा के लाहत से निकल, हाथ जरा के लाहत से निकल आए। एक बार आई आवाज ना रो दिल को कलक होता है, कब्र हिलती है कलेजा मेरा शौको, कब्र हिलती है कलेजा मेरा शौको। हाँ बुलाओ मेरा अब्बास दिलावर है किधर वो फिदा है मेरे बच्चे पा मैं सदके उस पर शिकमे गैर से गो है पवो मेरा है पिसार ये सदा के बरादर को पुकारे ये सदा सुन के बरादर को पुकारे अभी रहवार को आगे न बढ़ाओ भाई याद फरमाती है माँ इधर याद फरमाती है माँ इधर आओ आके अब्बास ने सर रख दिया पाई ने मज़ार आई ज़हरा की सदा में तेरी गुर्बत के निसार अपने प्यारों के बराबर मैं तुझे करती हूँ प्यार ध्यान भाई की हिफाजत कर ध्यान भाई की हिफाजत कर दिल कोई गुर्बत में इसे मार न डाले बेटा मेरा शब्बीर है अब तेरे मेरा शब्बीर है अब हवाले बेटा
अस्सलाम वालेकुम मोमिनीन। आज मुसीबत की रात है। अल्लाह सुब्हानहु व तआला से दुआ है कि हमारे गुनाहों को माफ़ फरमा और हमें अहले बैत के उनके तौफ़ीक़ात में उनसे क़रीब होने की तौफ़ीक़ नसीब फरमा इंशाअल्लाह। चंद एलानात की ज़हमत है। जश्न विलादत बीबी ज़ैनब सलामुल्लाहि अलैहा सलवात पे यहाँ पर ट्यूसडे 21 को होगा। जश्न विलादत इमाम हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम थर्सडे सलवात पर मोहम्मद थर्सडे फरवरी 23 जश्न विलादत हज़रत अब्बास अलैहिस्सलाम अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद और इमाम ज़ैनुल आबिदीन अलैहिस्सलाम यहाँ पर अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला सैटरडे फरवरी 25 को होगा। सारे प्रोग्राम 7 PM पे शुरू होंगे इंशाअल्लाह नमाज मग़रिबैन से। एक सूरह फ़ातिहा की दरख्वास्त है। सैयदा नसीम फ़ातिमा, सैयदा सईदा जाफ़री, सैयदा मसरूर ज़हरा, सैयदा बिनते ज़हरा रिज़वी, सैयद क़ासिम हुसैन, सैयद आफ्ताब रज़ा, सैयद क़ायम रज़ा, सैयद मज़हर जाफ़री, सैयदा इख़लास फ़ातिमा, सैयदा रबाब फ़ातिमा, सैयद शब्बीर हुसैन ज़ैदी। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। बारे दिगर नारे सलवात। صلوات بر محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، صاحب العصر والزمان، خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان، ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. The 28th of the Shab, the 28th of Rajab is upon us, and this is that day where Imam Hussain prepared his qafala to leave Medina and make his way towards Kufa, where of course he's intercepted and eventually ends up in Karbala. For many, this is the beginning and the aghaz of the Ayam of Azha, which I know is 5 months away, but still, as Abbas Bhai mentioned, this is a very difficult night for the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, as we know what will now proceed this journey towards Kufa and Karbala. The verse that I read for you in the khutbah from Surah Fussilat is a very famous verse, and one that oftentimes is discussed through the lens of the Ahlul Bayt. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now describes those individuals who verbally claim that their Lord is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna alladhina qalu rabbana Allah. They say our Lord is Allah. And then they do something right after that. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Various translations, various meanings, the depth of the Arabic language. Istiqamat, that is used in sometimes in Urdu or Farsi, thank you, and Arabi, means to stay where you are, to stand your ground, to not bend, to not break, to not apologize, to ultimately resist the need or the desire to leave your path. So now Allah now describes not just people who are verbally saying La ilaha illallah, but these are people that with all the distractions and all the various tactics of shaitan, they don't leave their path of iman and faith. When you combine these two things, the Quran says you can expect 3 things to happen. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Angels will descend onto you or onto them with 3 pieces of news. The first thing is Allah takhafu. Don't be afraid. Don't fear. وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Don't grieve. Don't be upset. And take the bisharat of Jannah that has been promised to you. So these 3 things are extremely important for us to understand. The shart, however, is not a verbalizing of La ilaha illallah, but rather it is this istiqamat or maqavimat, as they say in Farsi. Let's explore that in the lens of Imam Hussain tonight. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You see, the beauty of the deen of Islam, and my youth here tonight, alhamdulillah, are here, and I want to make sure all of you understand that in Islam, it's not always what you do sometimes that is worthy of praise and fada'il. Sometimes it's what you refuse to do that's also worthy of praise and fada'il. Sometimes the measure of your iman is not in the acts that you do, but the acts that you refrain yourself from doing as well. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, it's a very beautiful comparison between that individual who has tawfiq, just about enough tawfiq, for one of two things: either perform good acts or avoid sin. There are some people who they do incredible work. They serve humanity. They serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mustahab, nawafil, you name it. But partnered with that is that they can't fight the shaitan inside of them. And sometimes what we do is, or what people like me do, is that we do like a calculation. So today I did 5 good acts. I did 3 sins. 5 minus 3 is 2. It's profit. So today was a good day. Or sometimes I think 5 good deeds, 1 sin, 4. It's a great day. And you go to sleep, it's minan, mashallah. And what we don't realize, what I don't realize sometimes, that 1 sin can wipe out all 5 of those good acts. So here the 6th Imam and the beauty of the Ahlul Bayt, the qawl of the Ahlul Bayt are so beautiful. They are what I refer to as realistic. They're realistic. In a world of dragons and Harry Potter and castles and thrones and fictitious fantasy worlds, to hear actual real talk, as you guys would call it, is sometimes refreshing. Here Imam Sadiq is saying, look, it may not be the case that you can perform major acts, major good acts every single day and avoid sin as well. If the choice is either one, he says, and someone like me would think that Imam Sadiq, if I was in this class, I put my hand up, I think it's do good deeds, do good deeds, do good deeds. Amal khair, amal khair, amal khair. The hadith says, if you have the choice between the two, avoid sin altogether. Because that itself is a good act. And the base of the building of the iman of a mu'min should be based on the idea of not giving into shaitan. Look, it can't be, very simple logic, I'm sorry. It can't be the case that someone like me wants to build a 15-story building on a very wobbly base, a cracked base, a weak foundation. After 2 or 3 floors, the building will collapse. But if I have a strong base, I can build 15 floors, 20 floors, 25 floors, the building won't even move. And that strong base, Imam Salih says, is moving away from shaitan altogether. Now you can build your amal khair on top of that. Inshallah you will. It's a mi'raj for you. It's an ascension for you. But it's not the other way around. That do good deeds, and then perform sin, and hopefully the math adds up on the day of judgment, and I sneak into Jannah. It's not going to work like that. To be a little bit more realistic in our calculation, in our muhasabah, in our accountability. What I want to get at tonight is very simple. Imam Hussein's mission, his khulasa, his summary, was that of resistance. And he claimed that the more you resist, the more victorious you are. And I'll back that up with ahadith, with historical facts. And I'll get to somewhere where it is more practical for my kids in front of me, my youth in front of me, where we'll now end up talking about the idea that how can we use the Safar of Imam Hussain, the journey of Imam Hussain, for our lives today. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The month of Ramadan is a month away. In that month, of course, we commemorate the Shahadat of our first Imam. And the Shab of the 19th is known as Shab-e Zarbat, the night that Imam Ali was struck with the sword. You've heard the Masa'ib 1,000 times. The moment a mal'oon hit Mullah Ali with that poisonous sword, Imam Ali, to me, and for several years I struggled to understand this, he announced his success. أعلان كاميابي فزت ورب الكعبة. He could have said anything. He announced his success. Now, my buzurg, my elders, my wiser ones, mashallah, I can't say old, but wiser, mashallah, are ones who understand this way better than I do. It took me a long time, and even still, I struggle to understand that you have to be at a certain level to understand when you are struck with the sword of Ibn Muljim. That is, and Imam Ali had ample opportunity to announce his kamiyabi. Let's at least get that out of the way. Follow me as I go through a little bit of history. I'm going slow because I'm told sometimes I read too fast up here. So मैं आहिस्ता आहिस्ता आराम से पढ़ूंगा मैं आप भी साथ दीजिए सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मुहम्मद व अला मुहम्मद. If Badr wasn't enough, if Khaybar wasn't enough, if Khandaq wasn't enough, Ghadir certainly could have been his a'lan kamiyabi. But he chose that moment to come to grips to the fact that yes, now me, Ali, I'm successful in this world. Why? Tying into the theme of resistance. Hussein equals resistance. You see, sometimes we have this ghalat family, we have this wrong opinion that Imam Ali was quiet during the daughter of the three khulafa. If we understand how damaging Saqifa was for the deen, and Saqifa was damaging for the deen, this is historical. This is not against Ittihad, not against the Maraj's fatwas, and it's reality that Saqifa in that one moment destroyed 23 years of prophethood. And I'll tell you why. Because what the people of Saqifa did is that they took the deen of Islam and they placed it in compartments. And essentially, church and state now was created. So they would often say that if you have any fiqhi masail, any questions about the deen, tafsir about a certain verse, if you want to find out about Jummah, you want to find out about this ghusl and that salat, go to Imam Ali. He's your church. If you want to conquer land, if you want to be part of the army, if you want to talk about money management and government and bureaucracy and politics, come to us. In the process, taking the deen and saying deen is only in the department of the church, not in the state. When in reality, the Prophet of Allah across 23 years was a commander of the army, was the khatib of Jummah, was the one who balanced the books, was the one who answered the Christians from Najran, was the one who did everything. In the process, he would say that the deen is everything, social, political, active, recreational, you name it. Saqifa, in that brief moment now, took that 23 years and cut it into pieces. And one piece goes to Imam Ali, no doubt. He has knowledge. The first instance of oppression done on the deen is Saqifa. If you and I understand that, Imam Ali understands that. Was he quiet? Yeah, his Zulfiqar was quiet. He wasn't quiet. Khutbah Shaqiyya, that khutbah is devastating for any lover of Imam Ali. The moment that Saqifa happens, and this, the word we use in Urdu is halchal. There's no English translation for halchal. Chaos, I think I'll use. Ensued in Medina. The first person to run to Imam Ali was who? Abu Sufyan. Resistance. Follow me tonight. Resistance. I will tie it back to today for my young guys. Before, just journey with me through a little bit of history. Ali, this is not their khilafat. The imagery of Imam Ali and Nahj al-Balagha symbolizing the khilafah to be a shirt. That this man is wearing a shirt doesn't fit him. I oftentimes tell a story about my own childhood here, if you can bear with me. I have an older brother, as you know, as you may not know, or you do know, older brother, who's 4 years my older. And if my mom is listening, she's going to kill me, but it's okay. He was and still is the king of the house. My chacha can attest to that. Bhajan can do no wrong. Yeah. So on laundry day, the clothes are washed, the clothes are dried, the clothes are folded, and all the clothes go into Bhajan's closet and into his drawers. Okay? Because the assumption is that all of these clothes are his. So, true story. One morning he comes downstairs and he's wearing a triple extra size t-shirt. He's not as big as I am. He's, mashallah, he looks good. He comes down, obviously this shirt doesn't fit him. I said, Bhajan, do you ever realize that the shirt doesn't fit you? The astina are down here on a t-shirt. It's not your shirt. He goes, yeah, I just saw it in my closet. It was clean. I wore it. I didn't even see if it fit me or not, this and that. It was obvious the shirt's not yours. It's mine, actually. The imagery of Imam Ali is quite beautiful in the sense that when someone comes and wears a shirt that's 2 sizes too small, it's obvious that you didn't buy that shirt for yourself, or that shirt wasn't made for you. Abu Sufyan says this khilafat is not theirs, it belongs to the Bani Hashim. It's yours, everyone knows it, I know it. If you give me the green light, I will get that khilafat back for you and fill the streets of Medina with blood. If that was me, it's Abu Sufyan. For one day only, you and I are allies. Get my khilafat back. The day after, we're back to being enemies. But never for a moment did Imam Ali even entertain the idea. Instead, he says this entire situation and chaos and halchal is actually your fault. You're the jar of this chaos. And for 23 years, Imam Ali kept quiet in the sense that, yes, the Zulfiqar was not out. And there are reasons beyond that is beyond my discussion. But at that moment, to watch your God-given right, and he says in Ahjul Balagha, the old died off, the young became old. Ali is waiting for his God-given right to be brought back to him. If I pull out my Zulfiqar, they'll say Ali is greedy for power. If I put my Zulfiqar in, they'll say Ali is fearful of death. What do I do? That's painful. This dunya threw everything at Amir al-Mu'mineen. Everything at Amir al-Mu'mineen. But he never left his path. And that's why after the war of Badr, the first war of Islam, the Holy Prophet gives his khutbah. The khutbah to the families of the shuhada. In that khutbah, he gives this historic khutbah about the maqam of the shaheed in Islam. Meaning, the members of your family, the shuhada's family, your brother, your father, your husband, your son, who just gave their life in the war of Badr, they have a very high maqam in the hereafter. He spoke so highly of the shaheed, the Holy Prophet did, Imam Ali began to weep after that khutbah. The Ya Rasulullah, why was I deprived and mahroom from this shahadat? And that's when his tears became the Prophet's tears. He says, Ali, you will also taste shahadat. Your white beard will be drained with your own blood. And then he asked, again, Imam Ali, 1,000 salams. He asked the Prophet, at that moment, will I be on the path of haqq and deen or not? And he says, you will. The strike of Ibn Mujin on Imam Ali, a little bit of analysis, was his imza, his stamp, his approval that this dunya could not lure Amir al-Mu'mineen off his path. And this dunya tried everything. And he resisted every single time, Imam Ali did. In Ghadir, when there was rejection because of his age, he resisted the moment. Saqifa, he resisted. The Shura to bring the second Khalifa in, he resisted. Even when the entire Awam and Ummah came rushing to his door, saying, now we need you to be our fourth Khalifa. Even that moment, he says, you don't want me, get somebody else. You're fine. Finally, he accepted. But even in his 4 years and 10 months of Khilafat, 3 civil wars. But he never left the path of the deen. He resisted. Struck with Ibn Muljam's sword, now he says, now that I've left this world, I've resisted to the point where I am now victorious. Ali's resistance was Ali's victory. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You know, my youth ask me incredible questions. They really do. Incredible questions. I'll give you one example. How much I love these young kids. When I say young, I mean, you know, all the way down to 10, all the way up to like in late 20s. The questions they ask. One time I had an open Q&A in one of my classes, either here at Sunday school or at the school. I think it was a grade 5 student, 10 years old maybe, written down a question. Look at this question now. The question says that Imam Ali gave Ibn Muljam a glass of milk after he struck him with the sword. Yes. But it was a month of Ramadan. Didn't Imam Ali know that Ibn Muljam was fasting? What a great question. The answer, you can ask me after the Majlis, inshallah. But the question is incredible. Incredible question. Sometimes they ask about this Nabuwa versus Imamat bahs that is now, you know, getting alive once again. That Shias claim that Imam Hussain was higher than Rasulullah, right? And that's a whole discussion, a whole ashra actually to understand. But sometimes we need Quranic evidence, and this verse from Surah Qalam is that evidence that sometimes we need, that the prophets of Allah did not exist on a horizontal plane. Yani they weren't equal in their status, right? We have categories of prophets. We don't have categories of imams. And what do we use as proof in the Quran? This verse from Surah Qalam, verse number 59, where Allah now flat out says to the Holy Prophet, فَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ وَلَا تَكُونْ كَصَاحِبِ حُوتٍ. Be patient with the hukm of your Lord, be patient with the command of your Lord, and don't be like the man of the fish. صاحب حوت. Hut, yani, it's a fish in Arabic. Who is a Sahib Hut? Nabi Yunus. Flat out says, don't be like Nabi Yunus. That sounds to me very ajib, is not to all of you? It's like saying to Imam Qadir, look, you know, do this, but don't be like Imam Mustafa. You would never hear that. In fact, the ulama would say, if you cut and paste ja ba ja the imams, they'll do exactly what the other imam did. But this verse is flat out saying that you are the holy prophet. You're Khatm Nabuwat. Do not be like Sahib Hut, the man of the fish. What was this verse about? The verse was that Nabi Yunus is Tarke Ola, and I'm assuming you know what that term means. Tarke Ola, not Guna. Tarke Ola was what? That he was a little bit impatient with his nation. A little bit, Nabi Yunus was. He left them a little bit too early. Had he stuck around, he would have saw that they actually fixed themselves, prayed for Allah's mercy, and they got Allah's mercy. They were never punished. And for Allah now to have His Prophet understand that, He says, now you spend 40 days in the belly of this whale. فَنَادَى فِي ظُلُمَاتٍ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. In that darkness now, he says, Allah, glory be to you, I wronged myself. I get it now. I understand what I did wrong. He says to the Prophet Allah, don't be like Nabi Yunus. Meaning what? Resist the urge to leave your people. They're throwing feces on you. They're throwing garbage at you. There's thorns where you would pray. You come home with bloody hands. They threaten your companions. They banish you from the city. They put sanctions on you in Shibbi Abu Talib. And yet time and time again, you pray for them. Time and time again, you revere them. Time and time again, you guide them. لو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. Had you been a little bit hard-hearted, they would have left you. فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر. Forgive them, seek forgiveness for them, and seek counsel from them. This was the resistance of the Holy Prophet. Oftentimes, even non-Muslim writers, historians are wowed by the fact that this was a man in this Jahiliyyah era that did what he did across 23 years, nothing short of a miracle. It takes a generation, 100 years, for the Prophet of Allah to do what he did in 23 years in Medina and Mecca. Many people have said, oh, the sword and the money of Bibi Khadija, and yeah, those factors are there. But the one factor was he resisted the urge to leave his people. His resistance was his victory. Third point, come to Imam Hussain. Muawiyah makes Yazid his successor, breaks the treaty of Imam Mujtaba. For 10 years, Imam Hussain lived under the rule that Muawiyah was Khalifa. Imam Mujtaba died in the 50 Hijri, 60 Hijri Muawiyah died, 61st Hijri Karbala happened. Okay? 10 saal jo hai, Imam Hussain was quiet. Because he was respecting the Sulh and the peace treaty of his brother. The moment that Muawiyah broke the treaty clause, which was what? After your death, you give the Khilafat back to the Ahlul Bayt. Instead, he gave it to his son. That's when Hussain, Imam Hussain, rose up. Not before that. And the first thing that Yazid did in power was what his father said, don't do. His father strictly told him in his will, leave Hussain ibn Ali alone. Inko chhedo mat, as you guys would say. Let him be. But he, power hungry. No, these are the 4 names I want bay'at from. Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Zubair, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Hussain ibn Ali. These are the 4. That if I can get bay'at from these 4, I have my check mark, I have my imza, I have my stamp, I'm the true Khalifa. And none of them gave bay'at to Yazid. So finally, when Imam Hussain, and please follow me very carefully, a little bit of history. When Imam Hussain made the niyat now to go towards Kufa, after 18,000 letters were coming towards him, there was a massive meeting in Medina. Super heavyweight companions, all in one room. Mawla, what is your plan? What do you want to do? I have to go to Kufa. And they did their level best, at least Ibn Zubair, Ibn Umar, to stop Imam Hussain. In the process, they said, look, let him do what he's doing in Sham. They have Sham since the second Khalifa's time. During the second Khalifa's time, that area is known as Shamat. It's a massive area. Palestine, Syria, Jordan, all untapped, all Roman Christian influence. The second Khalifa sent Muawiyah and his brother Yazid. Muawiyah had a brother named Yazid and a son named Yazid. You two go and conquer Sham for me and this hukumat of mine. If you do that, I'll make you governor of Sham. He did it. In the process, Muawiyah does what? He converts or introduces these Roman Catholics to Islam. Imagine now, your first taste of Islam to be through Muawiyah. We often wonder how could it be that on Wednesday they were reciting Salatul Jummah. They didn't know any better. They thought this was the Ahlul Bayt. That's why he would tell Yazid that you have a forge, you have an army in Sham. Make sure they don't go around in Medina and Mecca. They'll figure out quickly that these are not the Ahlul Bayt, those are the Ahlul Bayt. Keep them tight, keep them with yourself. Let them go, conquer the country, then come right back. But don't let them wander around. Keep them right here. And that's why you would hear about the Bazaar of Sham. You would think, I don't understand. How could they do this to the Ahl Haram? They were told time and time again, this qafla coming from Kufa and Karbala are people who are looking to uproot your leader, your Muawiyah and your Yazid. Khair. Says, Mawla, let him do what he's doing in Sham. You stay in Medina and you do your tabligh and you do your hujjat and you have your companions. This is the city of your grandfather, blah, blah, blah. Basically, become the silent majority. Always remember, in society there are 3 groups of people. There are those who are staunch on the side of batil and evil. There are those who are staunch on the side of haqq and justice. And there are those who are in the middle, who are quiet. And those are the silent majority. And they can sway the public depending on what they want to do. Or they can sway them the other way as well. It's a very dangerous and a powerful group. And they're asking Imam Hussain to be the silent majority. You know what's happening in Kufa is wrong, but stay quiet. Stay where you are. The moment that that suggestion was made to Imam Hussain, he has a very harsh statement in his response to them. And I apologize for using this term. I don't have a better English translation. English is a very weak language, I'm sorry. He says, I spit on your suggestion. Tuffin hadha al-kalam, he says. Tuff, yani, it's nothing to me, it's niche. Meaning, I'm not even for a second when I sit here in the city of my grandfather and allow someone like that to claim to be the Khalifa of the deen of my Nana. Not even an option. He grabs his family, moves towards Karbala and Kufa. These are moments of resistance. The reason why I bring this topic up tonight is because we live in an era, and my young guys have to understand this a little bit. We live in an era of zero resistance. If you wake up and you identify as a cat, not only will you be accepted, you'll be revered and respected. True story. I was in Detroit a couple of months ago. True story. I heard it with my own ears. Yani the sanad is one person, me. Sahih Mu'tabar hadith. I was talking to an individual who went to the University of Michigan. We're talking about this idea. He said, Said, you have no idea how bad it is out there. And you're right. I live in a bubble. Alhamdulillah, I don't have no clue what's out there. I have a person in my university, a third-year class, who walks into that class, and she has cat ears on her head, whiskers on her face, a tail attached to her, and she walks around with a bowl of milk. And every so often, you can laugh or you can cry. Every so often, she'll lie down in the aisle and she'll scratch her stomach. And then she'll have a drink of milk. Not one person, he says, can even look at her, peep, boo, ye kya ho raha hai? Nothing. In fact, if you do, you'll be kicked out and questioned. She's brave and courageous. Zero resistance. There are those out there right now who have inclinations towards a certain lifestyle. And sometimes you have to talk about these real issues. And I'm sorry. Who are inclined towards a certain gender. And they'll come to someone like me and they'll cry and they'll sit there and say, you know what, I don't want to feel this way. But I have felt this way since I was 5 years old. And maybe this is a boy who's been raised by women, let's say, for example, you know, a lot of sisters, a lot of khalas, this and that, nani and dadi and amma, all them raised him. So he's a little bit of a feminine boy. Or the flip side, there's a girl who's been raised by boys and by, you know, their taya and their chacha and their uncles and she is a tomboy, as they say. And those are all, you know, inside, those are all, let's say, feelings. Tendencies is a used word now, the word they use nowadays. And those are very real. Islam accepts that. But never does Islam say that whatever you have a tendency of give in to that. No. If I have this tendency, if I have this desire to go do a haram act, listen to music, gamble, eat haram food, womanize, do all these things that are haram, if I have that desire inside of me, Islam says that desire exists. There's shahwa inside of every single male. No doubt about that. At the same time, it says to resist that shahwa. Not to give into it. Time and place. You're 15, not married, resist. You're surrounded by people who are blasting music, resist. Your whole class is going to the casino, resist. That resistance is not there today. It is the idea that if you feel something, express it. Become it. Years ago, years ago. A man became a woman, and that male became the woman of the year. That's a hazam kariye aap log, please. That man became a woman of the year. Imagine a woman being a woman her whole life. Oh yeah, aage ek saal ke baad, and he's a woman. And now he's the woman of the year, mashallah. And that's applause. Achievement awards. Specials on NBC. 1 hour on the bravery of this individual. In the middle of that are our youth. Now do you understand that qawl by Imam Sadiq who says, in the akhir of zaman, before the arrival of my Mahdi, and by the way, we're not waiting for akhir zaman, we're in akhir zaman. If that's not clear to me, then I'm blind right now. It'll be easier, he says, to hold a hot coal in the palm of your hand than to keep your deen afloat and high. Because there's zero resistance. If you feel it, act on it. If you want it, get it. In the process, you become your own idol. You become your own God. You worship yourself. Subconsciously, unconsciously, consciously, I don't know. But you are the one who is the echo, the middle of your echo chamber. And you surround yourself, I surround myself with what? With people who just echo back what I already know. And that's a problem. We have to understand the power of resistance and fight the urges we have inside of us. And that's why it's called Jihad Akbar. You are your own enemy. I am my own enemy. And we can't allow social norms to come in and dictate our behavior. My one last point in the Masajid. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. All of you are with me, inshallah? Those who were expecting Maulana Bakri, I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry. Aaj tayammum kar le, kal se wudu, inshallah. Historically, do you ever wonder why the prophets and the imams were never welcomed with a red carpet? Did the imams and the Prophet of Allah, let's say our Ahlul Bayt, were they always welcomed with a red carpet, with doves, jashan manayenge? No. The common complaint across the board was, I had a handful of companions. That's all I have. If I had more, I could do more. There's no reason why Imam Hussain only had, and the most I've read in the Maqatil are 130 ashab on the day of Ashura. There's no reason why the grandson of the Holy Prophet could only convince or only bring 130 people to Karbala, of which women and children are part of that, if not the majority. The Prophet of Allah comes and he is what? He is rejected. Imam Ali, 3 civil wars, rejected. Imam Jawad put in prison. Imam Qasim put in prison. Imam Rada separated from his family in Mashhad. Imam Qasim left on the pull, on the bridge for 3 days. Are these zalimeen? Na'udhu billah? Are these people who would strip the people of their risk? Are these people who would treat their women and their children badly? Are these not the best of the best of the best? Can we claim that the Imam in their respective era was the greatest creation in that era? Yes, of course we can. Was anybody greater than Imam Jawad during his era? Anybody greater than Imam Hussain in his era? No. And yet there was resistance from the people to the Imam. And the question is why? Because we have an Imam who's coming. And history has a funny way of doing what? Repeating itself. As much as I think the insan ne bahut taraqi kar liya, we haven't moved one bit. In fact, I would argue we've gone backwards. And we resemble that era of Jahiliyyah today, albeit different parameters. Our phones are smarter, we're not. I'm not, at least. The question is why? Why was there no red carpet? Why was there no, Aiye, Huzur, please, we're waiting for you. You're the ma'soom of my time. Imagine living day to day with a ma'soom accessible. Imagine doing Hajj beside Imam Zamana. Imagine going to see the Imam for 15 minutes, talking about your problems, and him saying to you, Asad, I'll pray for you, inshallah. That's it. That's my Eid. I'm done. That's all they had. And while there are many reasons, I'll talk about one reason and then Masa'ib, and that is this. The Imams came to remove destructive social norms from society. Please follow me very carefully. Destructive social norms from society. I'll give you one example. The bearing of daughters alive during the time of the Holy Prophet. Okay? Was not done by everybody. A few tribes did it. But the other tribes watched and they were quiet. It became a social norm. A social norm does not have to be done by everybody. A social norm is accepted by everybody. That acceptance is by their silence. Along comes the Prophet says, these are women who are to be respected. That daughters are an avenue towards Jannah. All these ahadith about the beauty of daughters, 3 of them, Jannah is wajib on you. You won't be asked about your daughters, you'll be asked about your sons, blah, blah, blah. Treat your daughters, don't raise your voice, don't be violent, God forbid. All these things are there about daughters at a time where they're bearing girls alive. We have in some traditions when the Imam of our time will come, he'll arrive in the Kaaba, as you know, announce his arrival. He'll go to Aqsa in Jerusalem. There Nabi Isa will join him. They'll pray 2 rakat salat in that masjid where Nabi Isa now will very famously read behind the Imam. He will then assign, the Imam will then assign Nabi Isa to the Christians of that area and say, Yaad inko zara theek karo, please. Inko samalo zara sa. I'm going towards Kufa. And he will make his capital of his hukumat, Kufa, like his Jad Imam Ali. But, scary, when he enters Kufa, some say, he won't be welcomed by all. There'll be a group that will raise their hand like this to the Imam of our time and say, we don't want your teachings here. We're fine here. We're strong here. Because they know he's coming now to destroy social norms inside of us. Destructive social norms. A lot of my youth asked me, how can I prepare myself, Asad Bhai, for the arrival of the Imam? Do I ahad, do I faraj, right? Sahla, all these things are great. Sometimes the best act is to analyze and ask yourself right now, who are right now in the belly of the beast right now, my 15-year-old, my 18-year-old, my 21-year-old, my 24-year-old, I don't think we understand what these kids go through right now. And the fact that they are here on a Saturday night, my salams to you. Ask yourself right now, are there destructive social norms in society today? And am I taking part in those social norms? Am I allowing myself to be swayed or to be taken into a path of no resistance? Or can I be like Imam Hussain, the Prophet of Allah, and Imam Ali in my examples, and resist the urge to go down the path of batil? Even though I know at that moment it's going to be beneficial for me. More subscribers, more likes, more followers, more shuhrat, but a devastating akhirat. Identify today, what are those destructive social norms today? What's being done out there that is every day right now that's really destructive towards the Imam's mission? And are we giving ourselves into that path or not is the question. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, please. He says, Inna min haqiqatil iman. My last tradition in Masai. He says, the reality of faith, haqiqatil iman. It's a big statement. He says the reality of faith is what? An tu'thir al-haq wa in dharraka ala batili wa in nafa'aka. The haqiqat of iman, we claim to be a mu'min, I claim to be a mu'min. He says if you want to have a measuring stick, that's this, that you never leave the path of what's right, no matter how detrimental it is for you, nor do you ever tread the path of batil and falsehood, no matter how beneficial it might look to you. And that's hard. That's your jihad. That's very difficult. That's your resistance. To not give in to what everyone is doing today. Because that everyday thing that's being done today might be the one thing the Imam comes to eliminate. And if we are so ingrained in that, it won't be an easy transition from my life to the Imam's hukumat. And we're trying to, in our ghibat, we're trying to make that transition a little bit more seamless. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And so with this resistance now, Imam Hussain leaves Medina. Everyone is fully aware that Imam Hussain is leaving Medina. Preparations are made to leave Medina. We sometimes think for a moment that it's easy for him to leave Medina. It's not. This was his hometown. This was Madinatun Nabi, his beloved grandfather's city. And so Imam Hussain does two things initially. His first al-wida is to Rasulullah. And can I have the lights, please, if you don't mind? The second al-wida is to his mother Fatima. It's a very difficult night for the Ahlul Bayt's family tonight. The journey towards the day of Ashura has begun. It's almost as if we have missed crying for Hussain. It's almost as if, they say in Farsi, Dil ma tang shude. Our heart is now looking, give me a reason, give me something to cry for Hussain. Hussain now arrived at the grave of Rasulullah. Nana, I'm leaving Medina now. And I'm only leaving Medina because your ummah has strayed away from your deen. And I'm going for the islah of your ummah, Nana. A determined Hussain, a strong Hussain, a courageous Hussain, a brave Hussain, one who takes on the task, one who is honored to take on this task. But when he reaches the grave of Fatima, Hussain is completely different. Amma, I'm leaving Medina now, Amma. You're not with me, Amma. My brother Hassan's not with me, Amma. Baba Ali is not with me, Amma. And some riwayat say that he even asked Amma, Amma, I just want you to take me into your grave and embrace me one more time. When that's done now, the qafla is being prepared now. One by one now, those who are going now come and begin to now mount themselves on the animals. There comes a moment now where the majority are now mounted. And then a call is announced. Please lower your gaze, lower your eyes. Zainab, the daughter of Ali, is coming out of her home. All the men move away. All the men lower their eyes with the shan and respect of Zainab. She comes out of that home. There for her istiqbal. Abbas is there. Hussain is there. Ali Akbar is there. Ona Muhammad are there. Qasim are there. And with this Azim Sha'an now, the daughter of Ali now is mounted onto her animal. And the only thing I would say in the last sentence of tonight's Masayib is this. Zainab, this is 28th of Rajab. Zainab, this is Medina. Zainab, your Abbas and your Hussain and your Ali Akbar are there. But come to the 11th of Muharram, 61st Hijri Zainab. Sham-e Ghariba is done. Asr Ashur is done. That's that same Zainab. al-Masa'ib we call her. The same Zainab that saw things that Hussain didn't see. On the 7th of Muharram, usually we recite the Masa'ib of Janab Qasim. The actions of Imam Hussain during that shahadat are different from other shuhada. You've heard the Masa'ib several times, that when the cry of Qasim came out to Hussain, him and Abul Fazl went roaring inside the Maidan of Karbala at a speed unlike any other shaheed. And the question is why? And ulama have done best. Why? Why did Hussein feel the need to go with so much force inside the Maidan, where now what happened? The horses now, as you've heard, the right go to the left go to the right. What happened? What triggered Imam Hussain? And the ulama say one thing triggered Imam Hussain. He saw from the khayma, the qatil of Qasim had his sword up. He was about to behead Qasim. And the sheer thought of Qasim being beheaded, Hussein's Jalal came out. He says, Abbas, come with me. And I say this to you, Mawla. The sheer thought of Qasim being beheaded had such Jalal. Ask the heart of Zainab, one by one now, they're being beheaded. Hussein never saw one body being trampled. Zainab saw them all being trampled. If not anyone else, than her brother Hussein. That same Zainab, 11th of Muharram now. This Qafah is going towards Kufa and Sham. Everyone is ready. And one by one, like the daughter of Ali, she mounts everybody on the animals. There comes a moment now where Zainab is left alone. Tanha, Gharib. And I've never read this. Not one maktab, not one book. My heart tells me, how could she not think about her ruksat and her safar in Medina, where now she was about to mount that horse. At that moment in the 20th of Rajab, Ali Akbar is there, Abbas is there, Hussein is there. But the 11th of Muharram, 61st Hijri, nobody is there. And the Maktab does say, she looks around and perhaps maybe she looks towards Furat and says, Abbas, your Zainab is about to mount this animal and you're nowhere to be found. Fatima Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
फातिमा के चैन ने अली के नूर ऐन ने बाखुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा के चैन ने अली के नूर ऐन ने बाखुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा की चैन ने बाखुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। हर्फ आ रहा था दीन मुस्तफ़ा के नाम पर, हर्फ आ रहा था दीन मुस्तफ़ा के नाम पर। मिंबरे रसूल बिख रहा था तख्त शाम पर, मिंबरे रसूल बिख रहा था तख्त शाम पर। दीन की असास ने दस्ते हक शनास ने उम्मत मोहम्मदी को ख्वाब से जगा दिया, दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा की चैन ने अली के नूर ऐन ने बाखुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। हर तरफ से बंद हो चुके थे हक के रास्ते, हर तरफ से बंद हो खून मांगता था दीन जिंदगी के वास्ते, दीन के उसूल ने नाएबे रसूल ने जिंदगी का कर्ज अपने खून से चुका दिया, दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा के चैन ने खुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। फिर से शिर्क की तरफ पलट न जाए आदमी, राह मुस्तकीम से भटक न जाए आदमी, शाह तशना काम ने वक्त के इमाम ने हक राहों पर लहू से एक दिया जला दिया, दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा की चैन ने खुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। बढ़ते बढ़ते बात जब उसूल दी पे आ गई, और यजीदियत की शक्ल में उरूज पा गई, बढ़ के फिर दिलेर ने शेर हक शेर ने दोपहर में तख्त ताज कसर शाम ढा दिया, दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा के चैन ने अली के नूर ऐन ने खुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। दिल कहाँ से लाऊं जो करूं ये वाक़या बयां, 3 दिन के प्यास में वो हौसला था अलमा, जुल्म के असीर ने रन में एक सगीर ने मुस्कुरा के फौज शाम को रुला रुला दिया, दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा की चैन ने खुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। दफन कर चुके जो पाराए जिगर को शाहिदी, कब्र पर छिड़कने को मिला नवाब जब कहीं, शाह दिल मलूल ने दिल बरे बतूल ने लहद बेज़बा को अपने आंसुओं से तर किया, दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा की चैन ने खुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। लाख जानो दिल निसार सैयदे अनाम पर, रो दिया फलक भी बेकसी ये तशना काम पर, अपने महजबीन को दिल बरे हसीन को खींच कर गले से तीर जब गले लगा लिया, दीन को बचा लिया। फातिमा की चैन ने खुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया। हल्के बेज़बां से जुल्म की कमान तोड़ दी, कमान तोड़ दी, शहरगे गुलूं से खंजरों की धार मोड़ दी, नाज़िशे हयात ने फख्र कायनात ने सर कटा के आदमी का सर बुलंद कर दिया, दीन को बचा लिया फातिमा की चैन ने, खुदा हुसैन ने दीन को बचा लिया।
जब करबला की राह को चलने लगे हुसैन, रुखसत जो माँ की कब्र से होने लगे हुसैन, महशर बपा था बैन जो करने लगे हुसैन, आवाज आई माँ की न रो मेरे दिल के चैन, जाएगा तू जहां मैं तेरे साथ आऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब ऐ लाल अब लहद में पाला है पीस पीस के चक्की संभालना, ऐ करबला न देख मेरा घर उजाड़ना, बेटे का खून माँ हूँ कहाँ देख पाऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, टुकड़ों में लाश कैसे जवां की उठाएगा, कासिम की माँ को कैसे ये मंजर दिखाएगा, चादर में सोच कर तो यही साथ लाऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, ऐ लाल अब कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी, बाजू कटे जो भाई के खुद को संभालना, कैसे तू कर सकेगा सकीना का सामना, ज़ैनब को बेरिदाई से कैसे बचाऊंगी। ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी। ऐ ऐ लाल आखिरी जो तेरा इम्तिहान हो, हाथों पे तेरे की जो नन्ही सी जान हो, असगर को तेरे गोद में कैसे छुपाऊंगी। ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ, ऐ लाल अब लहद में गी। ऐ लाल अब जख्मों से चूर चूर जो मैदान में जाएगा, बेटे मेरा नसीब मुझे क्या दिखाएगा। मंजर में तेरी मौत का कैसे भुलाऊंगी। ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी। ऐ लाल लहद में ऐ लाल अब लहद में खंजर जो तेरे खुश्क गले पर चलाएंगे, ज़ैनब के बैन और भी मुझको रुलाएंगे। मातम में सर को खोल के तेरा मनाऊंगी। ऐ लाल लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी। ऐ लाल चैन पाऊंगी। ऐ लाल शाम गरीबा और कयामत उठाएगी, ज़ैनब न जब सकीना को खैमों में पाएगी। मैं गोद में सकीना को अपनी सुलाऊंगी। ऐ लाल अब लहद में कहाँ चैन पाऊंगी। ऐ लाल अब लहद में
अस्सलामु अलैका या नबी अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या खैर खल्क़िही मुहम्मदनिल मुस्तफ़ा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अमीन अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या अमीरल मुमिनीन अलीयनिल मुर्तदा, अस्सलामु अलैकी या क़ुर्रत ऐनिर रसूल, या उम्मल हसन वल हुसैन, या फ़ातिमत ज़हरा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा मुहम्मद अल हसन अल मुज्तबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह व अलल अरवाहिल्लती हल्लत बिफ़नाइक, अलैकुम इन्नी जमीअन सलामुल्लाहि अबदम मा बक़ीतु व बक़ियल लैलु वन नहार वला जअलहुल्लाहु आखिरल अहद मिन्नी लज़ियारतिकुम। अस्सलामु अलल हुसैन व अला अली इब्निल हुसैन व अला औलादिल हुसैन व अला अस्हाबिल हुसैन, खुसूसन सय्यदी व मौलाई या अबल फज़लिल अब्बास या इब्न अमीरल मुमिनीन व उख्तैक ज़ैनब व उम्मे कुलसूम व बिन्तिका सकीना। अस्सलामु अलैकुम या साइर शुहदाए करबला व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलैकुम या अइम्मतिल हुदा अली ज़ैनुल आबिदीन मुहम्मदनिल बाक़िर जाफ़रनिस सादिक़ मूसल कादिम अलियनिर रज़ा मुहम्मदनित तक़ी अलियन नक़ियल हसनिल अस्करी। अस्सलामु अलैका या बक़ियतुल्लाह फ़ी अर्दिह। अस्सलामु अलैका या साहिबल अस्र वज़्ज़मान। अस्सलामु अलैका या वली अम्र अल क़ाइमिल मुंतज़र अल महदी। अस्सलामु अलैकुम या सादाती व मवालिया जमीअन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।